Hola community, welcome
Hey!
to BlenderToday 250. 250. Yeah, 250 plus
It's
hours.
a perfect number for the last episode. Don't you think? What?
I think so. I think it's a nice closure.
Beautiful. I mean, stopping at 248 would be like, huh?
Doesn't make much sense, right?
With Blender we had 2.49 and 249A, B, C, remember? And then finally we got to 250.
And then, but 250 was never released, remember?
No, it was A, alpha, beta.
256 was the first.
Yeah, that's right. So, anyway, 250 is a number we remember both very fondly, right? Very nice.
I was working on the tutorials for Venom's Lab for 249 and you were working on 250.
Yeah.
So I was making a training.
Years.
I remember.
Took a long time.
With the pink UI and the purple and the...
We should try to find that version again and make a video tutorial with it. The very early 250s.
That's crazy. Yeah,
in those days, YouTube, I think, started like a few years before that.
Yeah.
Because we were working on it in 2007 and 8.
Yeah.
And that's when YouTube started. So
almost, yeah, because I remember Elephant's Dream, we didn't put it on YouTube.
Because for HD, you need a Vimeo in those days.
You had to use a Vimeo.
We're getting old. Anyway, we should not talk about the past, right? We were going to be talking about the future. Even though today, the very last episode of Blender today, we are going to talk about where are we going with Blender, because I noticed also in emails I'm getting that people are missing a little bit like a big plan.
Yeah.
And we've released at the blog article about what we are going to do in 2024, and mostly it was finishing things, small things, all the stuff we are doing, let's finish it and make it really good. And although that is good for everyone to do that, right, it's not super exciting. Right?
No.
People want to know, where is my AI, where is the VR, the metaverse, all the other stuff, all the cool stuff that we wanted in Blender. Where's the game engine, right? All those questions. I think we should talk about that.
We should talk about it.
At least once, and that people know, okay, so this is, of course, not, we don't forget about it, but we also have a name within blender.org that we deliver. Right?
Yeah.
We do overpromise sometimes. There are some things that,
for sure.
But relatively, compared to the usual corporations, we deliver. We deliver a lot.
I think so. And sometimes we deliver on things that were not planned. So
even though I know we want to do all kinds of cool stuff, and I'm going to talk a lot about all the cool stuff, this is just stuff that we want to happen, and I hope that it will happen, especially when we get more developers, and we get more funding, more donations, more corporations to help out, more stuff will happen. But currently, we can only do what is mentioned in the blog, the projects for 24. They're very humble, based on finishing things.
Yeah, that is already published at the beginning of the year for Blender. In blender.org, you can actually already see it if you go to blender.org.
The projects to look forward to.
And then, this.
That's
which is fairly up to date.
Too many projects, but we're going to do a couple of cool things.
And some of them are already underway for a while. Even Pencil and extension platforms. Actually, there might be news on extension platform this week or the week after.
It's already a news item.
Yeah, already.
So that's happening. Good.
Done. Almost
excellent.
Done.
So recently I had an email from a teacher from a university, and he would like to interview me, and or he wanted to have me coming over for a video thing, and I said, I don't like to do video interviews a lot, and I also don't have time to write out all the questions that you have. But then when you were talking about the last episode of Blender Today, I thought, hey, we can use the questions from that email as a guide for an episode for Blender Today.
Yeah.
Because there were a lot of interesting questions and to talk about. I think if we should start with that, and when there's time left, we can look at if there are questions in the chat where people say, yeah, please, I want to have an answer. I don't know if that will work because a lot of people are talking there. But
Yes,
we'll find
yeah.
out.
I think there we have already people talking about
you see
AI.
Blender market. You see, there's stuff people
There's
want to
stuff
talk
going
about.
on. And but I made a thread on Blender today on the Blender community website with all the questions from this person that wrote to you.
Okay, you already have it.
Yeah, and
okay.
then there is people also that have been writing
okay.
there.
So let's start.
We can start from here actually. So the first question is like, if you were given, like, if I had 5 million.
Thank you. 5 million.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Would you just walk away?
What would I do with
get
it?
a new car, a new?
Everybody dreams about that, right? That you
Yeah.
get suddenly 5 million. So the main question is, who would give that to me? You or a random person? Because the person who gives you the millions, you want to spend it in the spirit of the person who gives it, right?
Yes.
So if it's like a Blender user and you put it in a Blender project, of course. If it's for NVIDIA, you do something that will help them too, at least.
Yeah.
So let's imagine it was a lottery, right? Then
Yeah.
it's totally neutral. You just get suddenly 5 million on your bank account. So what are we going to do with it? That may be the question.
Yeah.
So I think what I thought about it is, so I don't need all the 5. It's too much money, right?
Yeah.
So I would use $500,000 to buy off my house, the mortgage, and to have some money left for some renovations. And I would put $500,000 in a pension fund, so that I have money for the coming 30 years, whatever. And for the rest, do something fun with it, right?
Yeah.
To put it in a Blender project and accelerate things.
Would you what exactly? Would you make a feature film? Would you make a Blender Labs?
5 years, 10 years ago, I might have done a film.
Yeah.
And now, I don't know. Because if you could, we had this idea and this dream to do a feature film with the studio and to participate in the market a little bit, to make some money with it. That would help the Blender project. But currently, a lot of good, high-quality films are already being made with Blender.
Yeah.
It's not very special anymore to make a feature film. There have been feature films produced with Blender already.
Yeah.
Several. Commercially reasonably successful in many different styles. So what would we prove?
Yeah.
So it's mostly an ego thing, right? It's really like, short films, yeah, everybody does short films. But a feature film, that would be like so cool to have a feature film. But you forget that the coolness factor of a feature film is often also 100 million marketing and all the stuff you see everywhere, and the hype that the movie stars and the big Hollywood stamp on top of it. Because the feature film like a art house film that the people make with Blender, like I Lost My Body or
those are successful.
Unicorn Wars.
Yeah.
They were great. They're very successful, but nobody is like talking about it. It's not the talk of the town.
Outside of our Blender bubble. Yeah.
It's not. So if you would say, but we made Despicable Me with Blender, then suddenly people say, okay, that would be interesting, right? Then you did something special.
Yeah.
But why do you want to make Despicable Me? Why would I invest in it? Universal can do that.
Yeah.
I don't have to do that. So currently, I think I would rather invest it in the technology for Blender. Or invest it, I just give it, right?
Just give it, but which any particular part of Blender that you will give it to?
No, I don't think so. It's the Blender Lab.
Blender Lab.
Blender Lab. So not so much to support the current project, but to really free up time from our best people and to hire a couple of others to say, guys, now we have 5 years to spend the 4 million, and that's okay. With a small group, and then think of what is it that we have to do now to have Blender still working in the next decade. Because it's 24 and the year is already over for like 2 months almost, huh?
Yeah.
1.5 goes fast, and then it's 25, and then it's 2030. So things keep going super fast. Time flies. And would Blender still be relevant in 5 years' time? If we don't do big things, I'm afraid that we will hit the barriers and the limitations of the Blender original code. The stuff that I made over 30 years ago.
I know.
I designed stuff, and a lot of that is still in Blender, which is a big compliment, but I think it's good to put some smart brains together and look at, okay, what would you fix or improve? What kind of designs do we need in the next decade?
And this is related to our next question. That is, do you see AI as a threat to 3D creators? And do you foresee Blender integrating any AI?
So, I read a great article about AI in the Guardian a while ago. And he said a couple of things. He said, for one, AI is not artificial and it's not intelligent, right? Because it's not artificial, because it's not doing anything. It's just stealing all the art from everybody and putting it in algorithms with patterns and then reconstructing the patterns.
Yeah.
So it's nothing artificial here. This is all the big art heist in history. That's what they call it. And intelligent is not either, not even very intelligent, because it's based on some kind of language model where people have been typing, okay, this picture is a llama, this is a mountain, this is a duck, this is a dachshund, this is a sunset. And by combining the text with the images, they try to detect the pattern, so that if you type, I want a llama on ice in the sunset, then it puts all those elements together. So it's all limited to that limited set of language models that we've been training things with. So in the end, I think the threat is not so much for the small artists. I think there's a big threat also for the Disneys and the Universals and all the big copyright holders.
Oh, yeah.
And I trust them to go after this, right? Because we, as small artists, we have no power. But what do you think? Would Disney like this? Would Sony like it? Would all the music people and the big publishers, they don't like it. They don't like it at all.
They're already going after other stuff.
They're already going after it. So there will be some kind of regulation where the training sets, what they can use to train AIs, will be much more restricted.
And what about Blender in that regard?
So what we should do is align with the open source movement. Mozilla is doing good ethical AI research to make sure that you train models with your data that's allowed to be trained on. And like Blender movies, for example, that's allowed to train them with. And you should also get AI models and train them on your own stuff and have everything local within your own control. And with open source software, we can do this. With free software, you can give people access to training systems. And then if you do like a little project, then the AI assistant can simply say, okay, you are doing a repetitive task like texturing everything with wood and bricks. I can do that for you. Just take a break and I will texture the whole stuff.
Or rigging, or UV, all those.
And that's what I think we should look at, and that's what will happen, where the AI is just going to be a better tool for artists.
So more machine learning than generative.
I mean, it's similar to like, if you go back, I mean, people think, oh my God, AI is going to change everything. Well, in the 80s, when I grew up, suddenly computers could make drawings with lines and perspective pictures. Like, oh my God, the computer is making a perspective of something, right? And that usually took an artist like weeks to make a good perspective drawing, and suddenly the computer did it in like in a second, right? In a few seconds. So it would take away all the artistic effort of people who have been trained to make perspective drawings. No, it's not happening, right? So very quickly, those people who knew how to make perspective drawings started using software that helps them making better perspective drawings. and they keep drawing, and then they keep using the tools to improve their skills. So with AI, it will be the same thing. It will be a tool, and we will master it, and then we will make things that are even more interesting.
And that AI cannot do. Hopefully.
No. So, is this happening as in that we scheduled it? No. We are way too small to do anything with this. So we do know that there's a lot of open source labs and companies doing things in an ethical way. And we will work with them when the time is there. And I think they already look at Blender anyway to develop tools for Blender with AI. The only thing that is a tiny bit unknown is the thing that they are training AIs to use Blender.
Yeah.
Damn. I mean, if you look at how, for example, currently the software is making 3D reconstruction, right? So you have cameras from different point of views, and then with AI and machine learning, you can get 3D models out of it. They look fantastic visually if you render them. But the actual geometry is a gigantic mess. It's totally useless.
But it's a matter of time, right? Because there are rules for how where to place polygons, right?
Maybe. But what they try now is to train an AI to use geometry nodes, node systems, and shaders and cycle shaders, displacements, and that kind of stuff. Because with shaders you can do a lot of things.
Yeah.
So and then by adding nodes and tweaking nodes, you can iterate towards that 3D model. And then instead of having a really shitty thing with all kinds of ugly triangles, you get the formula for the model.
Yeah.
And then it becomes interesting. Still just a tool, but I don't know where that will go to. Will be interesting times.
Okay, hopefully in a while.
No.
Then the
anyway, so I don't see it as a threat. I see it as an opportunity. No.
Okay, good to hear. The next one is more, let's say, what everybody asks. Every time there is a new release, we know that people are asking, oh, Blender is going to go, or whenever there is a new sponsor, Blender is going to go, like, going to be close, whatever.
They still think so.
They still think so.
Every time we think, yeah, but some moment, something will happen, and then suddenly Blender will be locked up, commercial, and then you download it and they say, sorry, you have to pay.
Every time, when Microsoft, when Facebook, when Amazon, when every time.
I'm afraid for that.
But there is no. So, do you fear any? Well, like one day something.
Is that possible? Is it possible?
Is it even possible?
What kind of possibilities do you have to think of?
Jeopardize the goal of
Blender. That there will be a dictator running the European Union telling us that we have to sell Blender or something, or how abstract is it? I mean, the Blender license, that's what keeps Blender free. We've been using it as a slogan, Blender is free software and it is free forever. This is encapsulated in the Blender license, that this is free software, free to use, free to make new versions, free to study the sources, forever, period. It's just there forever.
So even if you went crazy one day and said, I'm going to close it, the only thing that the foundation can keep is a name, but the code is from everybody, because the name is trademarked.
I could say I sell the sources to Microsoft or so.
So, but up until that day, it will be free and open source. They have to make everything open source.
I legally could try, but you could sue me because the foundation in the Netherlands is a public benefit corporation, and the statute, what says the goal of the foundation, that's what's called foundation, is founded on principles. And you are not allowed to do things that are against your principles.
Yeah.
So everybody who donated to Blender did that because we have certain principles. So every donator and everybody who contributed to the Blender project has to expect that the foundation makes decisions in the best interest of that goal. So selling the software does not help with that goal.
Based on the mission.
Yeah.
And the mission is what we have.
You cannot change the mission.
And the mission is what we have stated on BlenderToday.
Yeah, it's in the statutes. It's founded in the foundation. So you mean somebody could buy the institute or something and steal away developers. I mean, you can always think of things to cripple the Blender project, but it will still be there online. It's still there for everybody to...
Like hiring everyone, basically. That would cripple the project, but then somebody else can jump
Yeah,
in.
but then
But then you have to convince like 50 people to...
Yeah,
No, yeah.
why would you?
There's no...
It's not
So
going to happen.
that's a nice one, and I hope you people save this, because it's been... How about removing parts of Blender? Or like what happened in 2.8, like Blender, the game engine.
I removed it.
You
It was
removed
my last commit in the
Really?
source. So they gave me the honor of committing the removal of the game engine.
Yeah, I remember, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I started in 1995 or 96, when Blender was 2 years old. I thought I want to have interaction creation. I wanted to do some game development for PlayStation. So I added game engine in Blender. And at that time, that game engine was not a real game engine. It was only converting Blender to be interactive. That's it.
Only, I mean,
Yeah,
but you have to add
you
logic.
so you can have logic, you have a number of tools, but everything you had in Blender is just available for your interactive experiences. And then when we had investor money, the idea was to make a game engine that you could also split out of Blender and then have a little standalone game engine that can run as a web browser or as a PlayStation engine or other things. And then technically it was fully separated from Blender. So the game engine what we had until 2.8 was the redesign that we did in 2000, based on keeping the source for the game engine separated from Blender itself.
Yeah.
That means that for every feature you want to add in Blender, you have to add it in the game engine again.
Every time.
Every fix you do on the Blender side, you have to fix on the game engine again. There's not a lot of overlap in those two.
Yeah.
Because it was always based on converting the data from Blender to the game engine format. So yes, it was great that it was tightly connected, but that architecture it's just not good. And it was slow, plus I don't like it that I cannot have Blender to be interactive. And if you look at what's happening now with VR and AR creation, VR is working in Blender. There are people doing things with grease pencil and drawing.
Yeah.
So we should be able to have little widgets popping up, right? If you do this, then you get a little button panel so you can press things and then you put it back. So that kind of things is what Blender can do. And we should be working on that. And that is the step of making Blender interactive again. Right? That you can have your helmet or your Google, Apple display, whatever.
Yeah.
And you look around and you tap, and then a little requester will come out of the table to change the color of the table with the slider or something. And that is already interactive, because what stops you then from making smart environments? So you can walk around, and then if you touch the door opens, right? You go around, and then you see somebody walking or sitting, and you can say hi, and then the person says hi back, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of interaction is very normal to add, and that's what you can do in Blender. And we will work on that part. But step one is in real-time mode.
Yeah.
Real-time mode is on the planning for the second half of this year.
For physics.
Physics especially, because you need physics. Huh?
And you need a real-time, something that is not linked to the frame, the current frame, right? It's like a real-time clock.
Also, if you want to use a VR helmet or AR devices, you need the viewport to be real-time.
Yeah.
50, 60 frames per second. And that
More.
is
More. 90 plus.
but that's at least the minimum. Yeah. And the challenge then is, if you have your viewport in real time, how do you access tools? So you should be able to have your real-time viewport, and then you say scope mode, right? And then you scoped when everything is real time.
Yeah.
That's what we want to have working. And that's not simple. But when we have that working, things become super interesting. And then adding things like node-based logic for events and stuff is relatively trivial. So yes,
So
I don't think it's
mouse.
called the game engine, but the interactive creation will come back.
Yeah.
And if you say, I want to have making a game for PlayStation or whatever platform, It's better to look at Godot or other game engines. They are specialized in this specific platform.
And Godot in particular, the 4.0 version onwards, works really well with Blender. You can save a blend file and it will update automatically on Godot. Super nice.
So let them focus on that. What we should focus on is tools.
Interactive tools.
But also focus on artists creating experiences and being able to share that with others. A real-time experience is maybe as fun as having a little story that you tell with animation.
Indeed. And you mentioned tools and being able to paint, which is related to the next question. How about Blender
the
mobile
Blender,
or on iPad or whatever?
In 2000, we already had Blender on iPad with a Q. You know the iPad? iPad Q. Yeah.
Like,
wow!
You have Blender
if
on
you
this?
type Blender on iPad, you probably get it.
No.
Yes.
Well, really?
Blender on iPad.
Like,
you didn't know? Yes, you knew.
No, I saw the package.
Yeah.
No,
the blue alien.
This?
Yeah, there it is.
Crap.
It's Blender on iPad.
A tweet from you.
That was the Pocket PC. It was running Windows something, a tiny Windows thing. And it was running even the game engine for Blender, and then you could play the game.
What?
Editing, you could see it had a keyboard, so you had to. It was a nightmare. Then
I like that the keyboard is A, B, C, D. It's not QWERTY.
I think it's still there somewhere. You can download it. I think the iPad version is on the
download the
Blender.org/demo.
/demo.
It has an iPad version.
There must be a. I think not demo, but release.
Maybe it's in the release.
In the release, Blender 1.0?
No.
2.0?
It was 2.
Publisher. Oh, Blender 2.0 pack.
Yeah, the iPad. Yeah, 2.2.
Yeah, a whopping 20 megabytes. Damn.
So that was fun, but hardly usable. Then, if you jump back 10 years or so, then somebody made an Android port.
I had it on my Samsung S3.
Unusable too, right?
Yeah.
So
it could render in 2 seconds, the default cube.
So there's tablets currently, like the Surface. I've seen that the Windows Surface is also super nice, and there are more tablets that have multi-touch with pen input. I really believe that this is a great tool also for Blender to support.
Yeah.
But in order to fix that, it's not so much technically. I mean, technically, Blender will run fine on iPads or iPhones because it's now running the
Apple
same,
Silicon,
almost
it's
the same silicon and the same operating system, but it won't be usable. It doesn't make sense.
As in the UI will be small. You have to use a pen because.
So we need, please, if you hear this and you are a really good UI developer, it's not about drawing patterns and making menus or other stuff. It's about how do you get multi-touch experiences to work on mobiles, where you can have your left hand to rotate the view, and then you have your pen, and then it keeps drawing, right? So it's the same problem as the real-time mode with Sculpt.
Yeah.
And now you have a real-time two-handed input, because you want to be able to grab with your left hand a sphere and hold it in your hand and get a pen, and when you move the sphere it makes a line on it, right? Or you draw yourself. And that's basically the same thing as with a tablet, because you zoom in and out with your one hand and you got to draw with the other hand. And you don't want that to block. At the moment you start drawing, that then the left hand is disabled, and when you move that the right hand is disabled. That's stupid, right?
No.
So, and I know how to do this, but this needs a very dedicated developer who will look into this and make a design that makes all the current tools in Blender work with a minimum effort. And that's difficult. But I think it's possible. And when we have that working, then things are getting there for the mobile devices, Android or Macs, doesn't matter. But that will be a matter of years, I'm afraid.
You think? Years? I mean, we could launch without any
But it's already there. People can try, right? You can get yourself a tablet and test it.
Yeah.
So the tablet like the Cintiq or
Like a Cintiq, yeah.
and just test it. Like, how does it work? How do you make Blender really work with a pen
And without
with
a
your
keyboard.
hand? But without a keyboard.
That's the main thing.
It's really, really not so easy.
No.
So that's the challenge.
The next question. Blender is proof that premium software can be free and open source. Do you believe that places like Stack Exchange, YouTube, Reddit can achieve a similar goal with regards of premium education, like to replace paid college?
No. But I think this is the teacher who wanted to know, right?
Yeah.
He's afraid that his shop is getting cancelled by the internet. But that didn't happen for 10 years or for 20 years, and it will not happen in the future either. I mean, the internet is great in providing lots of knowledge, but after a while you don't even know if it's good or bad, or right? Try to find a Blender tutorial on YouTube. You find probably 1,000.
Yeah.
Now where are the good ones?
You can't.
Right? The shitty ones or the good ones?
You don't know.
No.
Because now there is no dislike count either.
Ah,
so now you don't know if it's something.
You look at the amount of hits, and then you get the Blender Guru tutorials have lots of views, so you think they might be the good ones, right?
Yeah, but you don't
But
know.
you don't know.
Yeah.
So it's good to have teachers. But the most important thing is that for education, you should do that in person.
Yeah.
And teachers should not train people to use the software. They should train people to be creative artists. To train them composition and all the traditional knowledge of art that has been
passed over generations.
Yeah, passed over generations, because whether it was 100 years ago or 50 years ago or now, making art is also a skill.
Yeah.
You have to practice that, and that's what you can train people. And Blender is totally irrelevant. The fact that you can get all that knowledge online, great, right? But I don't believe that Stack Exchange or YouTube will replace premium education ever.
The next question is more personal, as in the next two actually. Have you ever thought of creating another open sourse software? Like, like Linus
one
Torvalds.
day when I retire or so.
Like Linux. They made the Linux kernel and Git, two different projects.
That's right.
So Don, you made Blender. Have you ever thought of make something else?
But Blender is already so much, right?
Yeah.
But so I made a video editor and a compositor and node systems and a game engine and right. So that's what I already did. So that was the fun thing.
Yeah.
To put everything in it.
In one.
If I would have a text editor,
yeah.
So I would love to have done, but I didn't have time for HTML editor. So you have what you see is what you get editing in Blender for making documentation. That would be great to have that in Blender.
Yeah.
So that's the concept of Blender. So it's very hard to see what you should do next.
No, I guess like a OS would be the ultimate thing, right? Like a full-on distro.
So no, currently I have no idea for doing this. But you never know, right? So when in the lab, I want to challenge people to rethink things and to do experiments. I want to do experiments again. Things that nobody believes in, but I think we should at least try. Yeah. Right? Sometimes you can make it work.
Do you don't code anymore? Anything? No. But do you keep up with like reading tech news?
Probably you can go back coding, and it will take half a year or a year. But I don't have to code, but I can be a designer.
You don't have to like code at
but it's fun, right?
But you don't need to code at like a new render engine. You can still like. But do you for fun?
Hack stuff together.
Yeah.
Why not?
Like a prototype or. Yeah.
But I also might become an artist again.
Yeah.
Right? Making paintings.
Yeah.
Make art. Huh?
Yeah. Or music.
Or. So I don't have the drive to say I want to make another piece of open source. My drive is to make sure that Blender is still relevant in 10 years. That's what I think is important. And that's what we have to think of. Also when that is new, and when we have to leave away some of the past and move on to the future, that will be interesting.
Yeah.
What is happening in the forthcoming 10 years? That is new too. right?
It is. I mean,
Because
it's already happening, right? Like people are moving to game engines. It's more common to see
but
Unreal as
one of the things is we have to look at the internet. I really like it. A Blender doesn't need the internet to run.
Yeah, and
but
it should
that
stay that
doesn't
way.
mean that we should not work with it. We have to find ways for people to use the internet efficiently. Whether that's for assets or for browsing stuff.
Collaboration.
Connecting, right? Connecting and sharing.
Yeah.
So why would you want to have that you make something and then you have to save it in a file and render it out and make a video and then you go to YouTube and then you can share it. So when real-time tools emerge and get better and better, you can say, well, I make an experience in Blender, I want to be able to share it.
Yeah.
Why would there be a barrier between you and your audience? And that's what we have to look at. How does it work? I don't know, right? I don't know.
But
That's
as long as it doesn't require, like Blender doesn't require internet access to work, I think it's fine. It's just to expanding the experience, right? Making it more easier.
Jesus, time flies.
Really? Well, there is one more question by this, and then we can check something from the community.
My favorite color.
What is your favorite color?
Oh, Jesus, my favorite color. I don't know.
Do you have a favorite color even?
I've never had a favorite color.
No?
Do you know those questions that you have to answer when you make up passwords or accounts? And then you have to say, what was your favorite color? Your favorite pet? Your favorite teacher in high school? Your favorite toy? Your favorite whatever? I never had favorite things. Did you have favorite things? I don't remember any favorite thing.
No. I would write something and then forget what is your favorite. I mean, favorites change, right? Like when you're young, older.
Yeah, but when I was 8, I was listening to blah music, and then when I was 12, I discovered the Beatles, and when I was 15, I discovered hard rock.
What are you listening to nowadays?
I listened to punk music when I was 18, and new wave, right?
And now, what are you listening to?
Oh, Jesus.
More or less. You have to like. What's on your playlist?
If I sometimes go back to the 70s, if I listen music in the airplane on long flights, and Pink Floyd, of course, super nice, and classical music, and sometimes some modern music, but not a lot.
No.
So there's no time for all of this. So I don't have a favorite color. So if you look at my clothing line, it might be blue a little bit, but that's.
Yeah. But maybe that's why Blender used to have a color in the header that would change, remember? All the time. In every release it would change.
That was so nice.
Yeah, that's...
Okay. Were there super urgent questions or so in the...
There is a question, well, the community here have some questions, like, will you please collect the single post sources? Yes, I will mention. Then this one, my question is, reflecting on Blender's journey from its inception to becoming a cornerstone in the 3D community, what do you consider the most pivotal moments that shape Blender into what it is today?
Of course, we are Blender going open source.
Yeah.
Right? That was
2002. And
then a year later, finding out how open source dynamics works. Because that's more pivotal for myself, maybe, but the shaped Blender is to learn that even when you want something, it doesn't mean that it happens.
Yeah.
Right? In a company, you have a little bit of power, or a tiny bit, but actors, investors, and the plan, and the business model, all that stuff, and you work on that. But the community is not interested in business models or long-term planning. Like, I want Blender to be merging real-time creation and an offline creation, right? That was already my dream in the 90s.
Yeah.
Now it's happening a bit, but in those days, people said, it's nice, Tom, all those things, but let's fix the modeler. Because Blender's modeler sucks. So we started adding more modeling tools. We started fixing the viewport, making the drawing modes a bit easier to read, wires and wire overlays, and all those kind of little things that make working Blender more pleasant.
Yeah.
And that kind of interaction with developers fixing things and showing patches, and showing that to users and getting enthusiastic reactions, and that kind of dynamic of users contributing to Blender, basically, that was defining. Because now you really should. That's the power of Blender, right? That's where we got. So that's pivotal.
That's
think.
pivotal.
And the other thing is what I believe was pivotal. Of course, it's open movies.
Yeah, that was.
So
to me, that's
the thing that some still think it's a waste of money. Why did you give all that money to artists? Right? You could have put that in developers. No. I think if you look back in hindsight, I mean, right now it's maybe different, but in 2005 and 6 we did Elephant's Dream. Making a short film in this open source software, that was big. That was so mind-blowing awesome. That we had to prove that this crazy little piece of software could do something, right? It could do something useful. And that's what open movies helped us a lot, making those steps to get every time a little bit more leverage. And it was not always immediately visible, but on the long term, if you look back, there's also what the perception of other people, outsiders, they saw the open movies and they saw every time something better and improve.
Yeah.
And that gave Blender a great image, public image.
I think what it was also brilliant is not only making it and proving that Blender can do it, but also the concept of open content.
Yeah.
It would I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
Like
And the other thing that was pivotal, I think, was to gather the developer community to make a leap. And I know they hate it. They hated it. But 2 and 2.5 was massive. Before that, if you look at the UI of 2.4 and 2.5, how it started working, suddenly everything was real time and moving around in a nicer way, and the UI was looking a little bit better. It was like, we are getting somewhere. This is modern, right? Now we are up to the level that people expect software should do. And 2.8, right? It took us 5 years, a very long time, a lot of work to get it done what we wanted. And that gave us also a lot of credibility. And of course, it's not about the left mouse and right mouse.
No, of course not.
Some people say that, Tom, when you guys changed to left mouse default, it changed everything. I'm like, really, right? You had it available as a non-default, just one button press and you can make it yourself default. But when we did it, it changed everything, right? It was just a little thing.
I think it's a combination of things. Like it was a preference, but it wasn't easy to switch. It wasn't in the splash screen. Remember?
It was not. We added it later in the splash screen.
In 2.4, 2.7, no.
It was never in the splash screen.
I don't remember.
Okay, but it was important to accommodate more for a UI that people could recognize, right? So we looked at industry standard, industry conventions, and the goal of 2.8 was not so much comply to all the standards. The goal was allow people to configure Blender the way you want it to work. To have your own workflow and optimize your workflow for the task that you're working on. And that has not so much to do with your selection method, but also if you're an artist or a modeler or sculptor or grease penciler, and you want the UI to behave in a certain way and you want to be able to make it work for yourself. And that's still ongoing process, but that's what I think was pivotal too.
Is the 2.8 project over?
Yeah, we are now at 4.3.
I know, 4.1. Well, 4.0 stable, 4.1 beta, 4.2 alpha.
2.2.
But
no, it's not over. The targets, we are still working on it. One of the targets was the Blender app.
Yeah.
But still being postponed.
All the extensions, you could say.
Because of
the tool system.
Yeah. I think that kind of making Blender configurable is still a core design feature. But we have to work on it. We might find out that this is too intrusive with the current architecture that we have to make it easy for people.
Yeah.
And that it will be possible, but not very accessible. And then you make that a more like a design spec for Blender.
Yeah, exactly. What is the next 2.8?
Blender.
What is the next pivot
30,
point?
whatever, huh?
When is the next pivot?
The first thing is we have to make a name.
Oh. So no
every
numbers.
Project starts with a name. If you have a good name, then you can do it. X was X.
Yeah.
X was Mr. Tesla. Or Blender X. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
That maybe he will sponsor us. Yeah, we got a couple of million if you call it.
There you go, and that's how we get the lab.
So I don't know.
We need a name.
But
for
we have
that.
to. I got a name, and the Blender Lab currently, and that's.
Yeah, but lab is a bit too broad, right? We need a point.
Okay.
Because we had.
Let's move on. Otherwise,
All right. Yes. So, where will the Everything Nodes project move once the rigging nodes are done? Everything nodes.
Scene, procedural, USD.
Is the Blender app still in the works?
All the nodes, like the Blender node system, should also allow you to create any relationship between objects.
Yeah.
And so rigging nodes is more talking about bones and drivers and that kind of stuff. But you could see it as a bigger thing. That's also what animation nodes did in the early add-on from Jacques. We have to get rid of constraints, and with the parenting and tracking, all those little hard-coded features that Blender has, and you can make that node-based.
Yeah.
So every relationship between two objects can be a node. And then you get interesting node. That's a very interesting node system.
Both for visualizing and also editing, I guess. But so collection nodes, something like that.
Collection nodes, yeah.
How about simulations and rigid bodies and all that? Because the last time Blender had any simulations work on.
Is rigid body getting a little bit falling behind? I don't know what the status is.
It's just very like rigid
old,
bodies
right?
is one systems of bodies another. Then there is a modifier for clothes. Then there is Manta Flow. Like everything that has to do with simulations is so all over the place, unfortunately.
I hope that the design, the concept is that you get simulation nodes. They're working on simulation nodes. In simulation node you insert solvers. Solvers are also nodes that you can connect.
Yeah.
And every solver can be more like standalone.
Yeah.
So in theory you could say, well, I have a bullet solver for bullet physics, but you can also have a different physics engine and another fluid engine and cloth engine, and those things can work together.
Yeah.
So cloth and solver A may be really good in shirts, right? And some other is better in plastic. So you can create solvers and use them the way you want it to do. That's what I think will happen with the solvers. But I haven't seen the current status.
Yeah.
Let's skip that one.
Let's see. Do you plan to incorporate ACS workflow? that one is every week. CUDA.
Let's talk about one other topic.
Which one?
Which is the organization of the Blender Foundation.
Oh.
Because maybe people didn't pick it up. It was not put on the front page, but it is on blender.org. Blender now has a new board member.
That's it.
Yeah.
Is it mentioned in the Blender?
Yeah,
in
you can go to the Blender Foundation webpage. About.
If I go to, alright, let's go to blender.org, about Blender Foundation.
Organization. Scroll.
You have a secretary.
Yep, there's a secretary now.
Interesting.
So Francesco is now official board member of the Blender Foundation.
Oh my gosh.
January 1st.
And it's the very first ever because we've
always been the dictator of the Blender project.
Yeah.
And of course, let's be clear, the Blender Foundation is not making Blender, and Blender Foundation is making Blender possible. It's important.
Blender Foundation does not make Blender, it makes it possible.
Yeah. We are the foundation, make sure that there is bookkeeping and financing and donors and websites, the facilities, and making sure that everything works. But blender.org, the projects, the public projects, is where Blender is being made. So the foundation, however, is important to support the Blender project. And I've always been supported very well by Francesco in connections with the industry. Getting donors on board and big corporations, but also for the websites, building things and doing projects and productions. So he's my right hand, and he's great to have on board. So maybe Francesco is
Maybe
willing
somewhere around
to
here,
show
maybe
up
laying on a
and
couch somewhere.
say hi or hey. There he is.
So hi.
I'm going to withdraw. Then you can talk to him and
I can
make
talk to
it
him.
So that was,
and close it up. So I think people have been asking enough. What?
Yeah.
I think
yeah.
it was interesting, and you can have the future here and talk about the future further. Huh?
Future.
Good. Hey, bye bye. We will see you again in every other format. I mean, we are not done making videos and podcasts.
No,
and
no,
stuff,
no.
but it will be done in a different format. What's happening with Blender today, as in, you're not going to stop making videos.
No, not forever. No, no.
So you're going to do a different format. Are you thinking of a new concept or something?
I've been thinking of a few things. The main reason is that now there are other ways of knowing what's new in Blender, right?
Yeah.
But the Q&A thing, it's also important, like connecting with the community. So that I'm thinking about what we could do about it. Either.
But did you talk about your new role?
I didn't.
You can do that with Francesco.
Yeah.
Yeah, talk about because you are going to work more on the Blender product side and are making Blender awesome for users.
Yeah.
And that from that position, you can also have to talk to people, right? So maybe you can make that more focused on that level.
Yeah.
So that's an idea.
Getting more people on board and talking about
once in 3 months or something to do something fun online.
project based. I think the next one will be extensions with Dalai.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is not going anywhere. The skills of knowing how to talk to a camera, like, oh, look at that. No.
I was sitting. That's why.
Now people will find out that
this is how it goes. Huh? Hey, bye bye. I'll see you later.
Thanks for coming. Well. Let's get the other 50% of the board of the Blender. Oh my god.
So we have this. Can I sit?
Yeah, you can.
So we have this tradition of. I had the phone. We have this tradition that when we get things done, we've worked together on many projects in the past. We've done a bunch of stuff, and we have this little tradition that we want to celebrate that something gets done.
Yeah.
That we have muffins. So
Yeah.
I went. They didn't have the good one, so it's like the second tier muffins, but like it has like it comes with a discount
with the bonus.
coupon. Yeah, it's bonus, and it's
it
like
counts.
and I wanted to so you have the actual ASMR experience. So for later, but just to celebrate what you've been through for the past few years.
We've been through. I mean, I started Blender today as the live stream, but the name comes from the community, from Blender.community. So it's a work we have done, both of us. I just had Tony was mentioning I didn't know it was already on the website. Yeah,
it's there. It's just that it's not very prominent, so it's I went, I did the paperwork. There are like a couple of little things that there is one paperwork that is missing, but like it's official. Like if you go and check in the public records, it's there. So it's a thing.
On the other hand, it's been like this for many years already. So from producer of the open movies to helping out with funding, with meeting with people, going to events, a lot of things that Tom doesn't always like to do or can do actually. So it's one way or another.
You've been
doing it already.
Yeah, exactly. So that's like, it's not pressure or anything. It's just like, of course I am super, grateful, and I am very humbled that the opportunity, mostly because indeed, like, I do know how important on a personal level for Tom that is. It's literally like a big part of his life that he dedicated to the project. So obviously it means a lot that he trusts me on this role. And for the other roles also in the studio and in the institute, overall with the business to help out. So of course I really, really appreciate it. It means a lot to me. And in practice right now is not really changing much because indeed I am doing a lot of the work already. So it's not really a surprise. There is like someone hovering behind the door.
There is a shadow approaching and so, but from what you're doing at the moment, that it doesn't change anything because you've been doing it already. You also focus on, well, I don't know which part of Blender you're not focused on. There is from the product part, from the Blender Studio part. What's next for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think there is one topic that we like discuss very often with Tony is indeed, okay, as Blender transitions into the future, what is something that really matters? Like, as Blender for the past few years has been really seeking more sustainability and stability, it's quite different when we started working together back then, living at the old Blender Institute in the Anthropodoc a few years ago, where it was just like, you know, I was making this analogy, like at that time, Blender, like if you would personify Blender, it was like a teenager, you know, in the bedroom, being like all messy and do like, I'm gonna do what I want, like not really having a very clear plan, just doing stuff, just very creative. Now Blender is more like of a young professional, like it has achieved a certain skill set and a certain status, and it can look into the job market and look for opportunities and do things, but there is still steps for growth. And so it's kind of like interesting when you think about it that way, because we have been like with the whole team, like I feel that as a team we've gone through that phase, obviously, that you need a bit of a different mindset too. And how do you do that while still keeping the spirit of the project, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same, you know, as Ton is, you know, he may not look like a teenager, but he's like, I mean, he's maybe not a teenager, but like, you know, he's a young rebel at heart. So how do you stay like that, you know?
Because that's another question. Why would you even change that, right? If it worked all this time, why can't we just like all live in the building and work on the weekends in a fun project? What is it then? Is that many people's life maybe revolve around Blender as a meaning of like
I mean, of course it's just different because you can't stop time, and like you have to make conscious choices if you want to stay like that and stay small and say no to things. I think it's great that we can afford a bit more comfort in our lifestyle, and also in, you know, the way the organization runs. Blender has also grown in popularity. Lots of people want to help and get involved, and to make that possible, even just to accommodate, like the vision of Blender, you know, is to really rely on a community contributions, like people that can come with designs, with ideas, with development, with all these things, and to achieve that scale, you need some core support. And as the project scales up, that vision becomes bigger, then you do need realistically a little bit more support than a couple of people working day and night without doing anything else in their life. So like that's the kind of sustainability that we're looking for. It's not like, oh, we want to have like 100 engineers, you know, working here and like making the project here and everything. The idea is to really keep it as it is, but to make it really indeed that it can handle the growing popularity, it can handle more community contributions, both from, you know, people that are just doing it, you know, out of their good heart, but also organizations and businesses. And that's like the thing that I find very exciting for the future of Blender, because I see it happen. It's so slow, and sometimes it's so difficult to talk about it, and like, you know, with companies and organizations. But if you think back of how it was like 5-10 years ago, we are in a different planet right now, and I can see us going further. So that's very exciting.
And how about the next 5 years, or in 5 years?
Yeah, I still think like my dream, one of the things that I really hope for Blender is that, you know, besides the features and what Blender will be as a product, from the community point of view, what I really hope is to see more studios, especially like creative places like game studios or film studios. They don't have to be massive, but like that they do have enough resources to make a quality product, that they can invest in software development, and that they do choose to invest that development in the Blender community project. So to not do the thing that is quite common, to take a free software, modify it on the sides, maybe at some point contribute something back, but to really try and align, realistically obviously, with the open source project, and that multiple of these, you know, studios and organizations can work together towards making Blender better for everyone and for their own production. At the timeline, at the pacing that of course productions go, but to have that commitment. And that's what I hope that we will be able to achieve. That would be, I think, a great next stage of growth for Blender. Right now, this is happening with tech companies. Like they already kind of do that.
With USD.
Yeah, like you know, if you think of the major, you know, some of the major dev fund sponsors that do tech, that do like hardware, for example, NVIDIA, AMD, Intel, or Apple, like they all do have a certain stake, right? And I think that's what I hope to see also for companies that do creative content. That would be really cool.
I think Blender Studio plays a big role in that, because this is the studio that can push this vision, right? Because we are already well, the studio already is
Yeah.
using Blender and putting all the tech or the features in the Blender project and aligning it with the Blender project. But it's not always easy. So
Well-
imagine if it's easy, not easy for us.
Yeah, like
For
I
other
mean,
projects.
I hope that we can, of course, the studio hopefully can set a good example and provide like a good kind of benchmark for how to do this. And you know, I hope also for us, like the future of the studio, there is indeed a lot of like exciting things that we can do. You know, as Tom was saying, like things have changed, like from, you know, Elephant's Dream to, you know, Project Gold that we are doing now. If you look at the films, if you look at the complexity that we tackle, at the type of storytelling that we strive to do, like the people that have worked in the team, their roles, how they have changed and evolved over time, it's like, wow, that's like, is really not the same. So what are we going to do about it? And that's a question that we are thinking about actively this year for how to move, you know, forward with that as well. And I think that, of course, the role that the studio plays can still be very, very relevant for Blender. Yeah.
That's good to hear.
So, I mean, okay, you asked me a bunch of questions. Are there questions in the chat? Because I do want to ask you questions, right? It's the end, so...
Well, yeah, I guess. I mean, there's questions in the chat. There is some questions already left in the in Blender community, but I can't. Like, there is 41 comments, which I don't know if I'm gonna.
Do you
be
plan to
able
do this at 2 hour? Is it like a
2 hour.
marathon? It's like a telethon, like you're never gonna stop until...
Well, it's hard to follow, right? There is like this. There is this thread. There is in the chat, but there is no moderation in the sense of like people have been commenting, voting here, which I can see with
nice,
the
nice
votes.
feature.
Nice
Yeah,
feature.
yeah, nice,
You
yeah.
made it.
Look at these badges. Look at people full of
It's
Blender badges.
beautiful. Look
Wow.
at that here. This person has contributed to
Everything.
Like, yes, 2 actually. Blender do. Nice, big pigeon. Thank you.
Thank
The
you.
year, the charge.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And
yeah,
if there were even more like pets, and
yeah,
they
yeah.
would
I
probably.
know. Yeah.
But yeah, I think we have covered this. Like Don Sivra and everyone else, thank you for the amazing tools that you make, and you will please collect in a single post the sources you mentioned last week so we can stay up to date. Yes, I actually wanted to talk about that. There is in devtalk.blender.org, of course, there is the weekly updates section where you can see every day, like in this case 19 February, which is now, you can see everything that is new. You can basically get a glimpse of what I talk about every week, so you can do it. However, if you want the full-on like experience of what I go through, the link, the script that I use to generate this list, I put it on my. I was gonna
On
say
my
Git,
GitHub.
on my Git, but we can. I don't know if we should make it. I don't know.
Wow. So
It's-
this is it. This is the magic.
This is the magic.
Finally open source.
And it's multi-platform. I tested it on macOS. I ran it on Linux. Now it works. I don't know about Windows, but probably it's very straightforward. You just need to install Git and Python modules for Python.
For Python, yeah.
And then you just give it. This I did this morning. You give it a path where your Blender commits are, and you give it the range, like from when to until when, the range of date, and it will make a link with all the commits that I go through. In this case, like 250 every week.
I like how the hard code number at 2 p.m. It's really the OG real. This is production software.
It's
guys.
production
This is
software,
it.
yeah, exactly. I mean,
The definition of production software. Even this, like, you know, used for, you've been using it for a few months.
Yeah.
So like, you know, it's like industry fashion, just like initial commit. So this is it.
Initial
like
commit.
you got the one commit. That's it.
Exactly. This is very up to how the industry runs. Like when they did with USD, like one commit or like boom, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, in this case, the 14-hour. I mean, you can edit it yourself, right? It's like I set the time somewhere. Replace here, hour 14. Actually, I could have made it a setting up here.
Yeah.
Maybe that will be my second commit.
Good.
But it's 2 p.m. because that's after lunch. That's when I start counting what's new every week. But yeah, there's several like Blender Store relaunch. When?
Soon.
You heard it first in Blender today.
No, that's really like I was chatting about this with Tony. It's like one of the projects for me, you know, that I really want to kind of take over and restart. We've been having some interesting conversations with like potential people that could help us with the manufacturing. Then we've been thinking about it, because there are many ways, right, that you can go. But basically the strategy, just FYI, is that which we mentioned also, there is a blog post about this, is we want to restart the store focusing on print on demand. So to not have a lot of warehouse and storing products, but to make them on demand. There are many services nowadays that allow you to do that with different printing technologies that a few years ago they were not so common. There is direct to garment, direct to film, that in some cases allow you to do things that screen printing wouldn't even allow you. Of course, it doesn't have the exact same durability as screen printing, but it has more versatility, and it again allows you to only print what you need. And if it's done, one of the big things is, of course, we want to do this ethically, like using, quality materials that are responsibly sourced, and to make it, source it from a vendor that operates according to some minimal standards. So that, nowadays anything is possible. You can, you don't want to. You can do it. You can do it in ways that would make us uncomfortable, and we really want to make it in a way that we are comfortable with it. The point is not to make like a huge profit by selling merch. It's more about making sure that if people want to have Blender branded swag and cool stuff to wear, that they can, and that it is something that we would be proud to see ourselves wearing. So something that has a certain taste, a certain quality. We want to start very simple, just with branded stuff, so using the Blender logo in different combinations.
Made by you.
Then like something like this, so like simple statement items, and then like maybe in the future bring back more like the concept of the Blender streetwear, to have a little bit more like design, more like storytelling. But that's after we build like our operation in a way that it is sustainable, that we know that things get delivered and that they get printed. So I hope that in a few months we will be back up and running with this.
Excel mousepad also, someone says, because why? This is not big enough.
No, this is it. This is what you get.
This is like, how much bigger?
The nice rounded corner, like with this radius. I love it.
Beautiful.
It's like,
I mean, look at the size of my mouse.
Perfect. That's why your mouse doesn't move, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly. That's
just
why
put it on top.
It's a move, yeah.
So.
But yeah.
So yeah, that's the story with the store.
That's the story with the store. They're like, also Blender Apps project, Blender Game Engine. I think this is something that Ton already answered. Blender real time mode.
Yeah. I don't think we need to.
Heard speculations of Blender complete rewrites. Speculations? Where? Did you hear speculations?
People, I don't know. I was walking in the streets here in front, going to the Albertheim, and I heard people. Did you know these Blender people? Are they? No, I didn't.
Hear it?
I didn't hear it yet. So
no.
I think that this is not a very realistic speculation.
What would it be, like Blender in Rust, or like, I don't know.
There are so many things to do in Blender that are better than fully rewrite it, but
rewriting it, yeah.
Anyway,
the apps were talked about, the Control A for select all. Yeah, industry standard keystrokes. They're not always that standard, but yeah, this will kill so much workflow. But yeah, you know how video games use WASD? Imagine if you made a game that doesn't use that. That is kind of the impact.
Very interesting. It would be fun. People would take it as a challenge.
As a challenge,
it would be a feature of the game. That game that you don't play,
that doesn't use WASD.
Yeah, everybody would know.
Or ACS.
Yeah.
ACES.
Yeah. Natively in Blender. Oh well, I mean, so I definitely cannot give a short answer to this, but there is the long answer on DevTalk. If you just go on devtalk.blender.org and you type in ACES, I'm sure you find like lots of people talking about this and explaining why. What I can say is that right now Blender has a commitment to support that. It has moved from the filmic profiled color space to the AGX. Which already has been compared side by side with ACES and seems to be yielding to good quality results for certain things. Of course, I understand that if you are like in a post pipeline, especially when you film and you have raw footage and you want it to be displayed in that color space, you want to have absolute consistency. And I don't know what it would take exactly for this to happen. But I mean, again, like I think this discussion is better taken in the forum, because like there are people that actually know what they're talking about. Everybody seems to know what they're talking about there. So
with color spaces.
Yeah.
Everything Nodes project. That's another question. Everything Nodes. Where is it? Those names are like.
Yeah. they just stick forever.
Like you should say it once and then like, oh my god, it
Yeah.
means everything, right? Like can't go further than that.
Yeah. But I mean, like, I think that what is very cool about Blender is, of course, the everything nodes became, the geometry nodes, because that was something realistic.
Yeah.
It reminds me a little bit of Animation 2020, that then became something else, and that it became something more defined, which is very useful, because then is less than a brand, is becomes more of a feature, or like a set of specs.
Yeah.
So I think that's
Yeah, Francesco is talking about the latest blog post that was mentioned here about the project itself. Like not 2020 or 2024, 2025, but more of a dedicated set of tools with a name and with a roadmap.
Yes.
Like tools.
Yeah,
toolbase.
exactly. So and I think that for everything nodes is conceptually having more, like, node interfaces are very popular, they're very intuitive, and they're very powerful, so they will find their way in more parts of Blender than we hope. So it's more like an interaction paradigm more than anything else. So yes, of course it will continue, and it's just like, I think it's just like saying it's an interface. It's like a type, it's a way of representing data that is just coming to Blender in more and more areas, and the main thing to be paying attention to is that it stays as consistent as possible, just like in anything else in Blender. And I think that that's what will always be the strength of Blender, that if you have nodes for manipulating data, depending on whatever context you are, that they always behave in a way that it feels intuitive. And that's what, for me, this is all about.
Consistent.
Yeah.
Then there is questions about a procedural approach to manage Blender via USD, like workflows, collections management.
Yeah, I mean, that's also a topic. There is an ongoing USD development right now. There is a branch, there is a pull request that is being worked on to create a little bit more of a seamless export pipeline, like saying, okay, export collections as whatever you want, and then one day you can imagine that thing may be working bidirectionally. At some point you can imagine that being working instead of just with a collection with like a more elaborate workflow. And again, like it's kind of a trend, it's kind of a pattern. These things, they do take time. So yeah.
Speaking of time, rigid body simulation to be more advanced. Ton already talked about that. It's just it's one of those things that must be hard, right? Physics.
Yeah, I think in the end, like, that's also a thing that comes up very often when I am talking with Ton. Like, as you can imagine, like, we spend time talking about these kind of things more than like, okay, how can Blender grow its pool of contributors? Why can't we find someone that knows physics that is willing to contribute functionality in this area? There are incredible libraries out there. There are incredible solutions. Some of them are open source. People do it in their own spare time. But what would be the incentive that would help people to take that and bring it inside of Blender? And we know it's really difficult to take your beautiful, perfect piece of software and then somehow make it fit within how Blender wants to work. Because you cannot just change Blender to revolve around your library.
Well, there are add-ons that do.
Yeah, you can, of course, just make a little add-on and then just like, a little bridge, and then it's plugged into your beautiful reality and everything is fine. But how do you make it feel like Blender? And that's the thing that is really difficult. And how do we make it so that it becomes more accessible and more easy for people to do that? So.
And it kind of aligns with Blender, right? Because there is also there's people that come up with an engine that they made on the weekend or all their life, but it's so different. And maybe what Ton says, it just needs to be a node that you just add it in.
Yeah.
Then another question. We have a bunch of questions. I don't know how long you want to stay.
We can hang out. I mean, we can go.
The one thing I will miss is the Q&A. Actually, this part of. Will you or someone from Blender do a live Q&A after BlenderToday?
I mean, but I think the idea, you mentioned it yourself, that we can do, like Q&A, ask me anything kind of things every once in a while. We can take the opportunity, that comes with maybe releasing something, announcing something. Like at some point there will be the extensions platform, like soon. Yeah. So at some point when it's like in a presentable state, I think you should. I mean, it's up to you, but
I would like to get like you and
get Dalai, get someone like get Campbell in a call, like to ask him, hey, how was it? Because this thing has been going on for quite a while. Like, why did it take so long? what's going on? Like, where is it going? I think that, and of course, just to share what the project is. I think that those kind of little product presentations, they are very precious, and that they are very, very nice to do. And I think that doing it more like that, and then announce it in advance so that people can ask questions in advance. I think that that's very cool, because it's more than the interactivity with the chat, which of course is super fun, but like that allows really people in advance to write something and have maybe people upvote it, so you actually get questions and you can articulate better sometimes just in a conversation rather than just writing and replying every single comment. So that's actually quite efficient, I would say. So I think that that's how we should do it.
And giving maybe more time to let people ask questions.
Yeah.
Like there are some questions here that are super nice, and they are like were commented like 11 minutes ago. Hi Pablo, Francesco, Anton. I've been working professionally with Blender and it feels very solid with rigging. Nice. Do you plan to give Blender more tools for 2D puppet animation?
Well, I mean, I think if you look at I think for Blender 3D is I would say first in the sense that a lot of the tooling and a lot of the design revolves around the idea of always being aware of the third dimension. So when you're talking about puppet animation, I mean, I know some softwares, they do such an amazing job at making themselves so accessible and so easy, playing like using the constraint of, okay, you're in 2D, so you don't worry about certain things. Like, how can Blender's tool become so intuitive while keeping always the option of saying, well, now I am 3D. Of course, that we make it harder for ourselves, but I think that it is possible. Be conscious about it. So I think that there is definitely I think both with the nodes and also in general with the rigging tools as part of the animation project, there is always that intent of making things simpler. By saying, this thing, I just want to have simple deformation. I want to have a simple parent relationship. But how can you make it simpler? That's a question that we ask ourselves all the time. So yeah.
I have a question for Ton, but you are second best here.
Second best.
Second right hand. So actually, this is pretty interesting. It's by Waffle. It says, thanks everyone. Thank you. Having built and managed free and open source software from the ground up all the way to amazing success, is there any, well, you have, not Blender itself from the ground up, but others around Blender.
Yeah.
Is there any advice you would give to team managing Godot? I guess any foundation, I would say. Is it being related field and similarly adapting a similar structure to Blender with this recent addition of the Godot Foundation?
Yeah, I think Blender is like, I am really happy to see that Blender is used as a model for many aspects by some organizations. Like there are a couple of free software projects that have adopted the foundation model, so the Stichting, the Dutch foundation model, and the separation of concerns between the management of the brand and the IP and the whole concept of facilitating the process, the project, and then having other organizations having an industry or having an ecosystem or having a community to take care of actually doing the contribution. So it'd be like, we make sure that there is a place, we make sure that people are welcome, we make sure that there is a plan that is communicated, we make sure that there are facilities where things can happen, which is a lot of work. Is like really maintaining a building, like but then people need to go in and do their stuff, and of course you build it with a purpose. You don't So that model being understood and being replicated, I think it's great, and I think that with time it will I think keep proving itself further, and we of course have a relationship with most of the existing free and open source projects. Godot, of course, is one of them, and we get the opportunity to talk with each other and to share notes and to look into, give feedback to each other and to learn from each other. And
do you think the open content, open movie, open game project would?
Yeah, I think content-driven development is also, again, like what Tom was saying, is very, very important for this kind of projects. And I think that with Godot, eventually it will happen. I think that it would be very interesting to see even how combining a project like Blender and Godot could lead to that kind of, to push both softwares together. So I think that that's definitely an important thing. You had opened like the Dev Fund page. That's a thing that is really fun, that I'm very happy to see both Godot and also the Krita Foundation, right?
Yeah, Godot Foundation is using the same concept. Well, actually the same website, at least the landing page.
Yeah, this is kind of the design. Like the Krita Foundation, actually, the development fund of Krita, the Krita Dev Fund, that they use the actual software. And it's very nice to actually see that, you know, we go through the trouble of building this infrastructure and then, you know, make it available for everyone, and then it's, you know, you can actually use it. So that's good, because it saves people time, and it starts to build a little bit the language also. Okay, there is a dev fund, so I can be part of a dev fund. Then there is like a sponsor tier. Like it's a thing that we thought about when we did it, and seeing that it gets applied to other, you know, it gets picked up by other organizations. I think it's really cool.
Nice.
Yeah,
5 years after, well, 6 actually, since we made this, right?
Yeah.
We made it for the quest, for the code quest.
wow, yeah,
It's crazy.
yeah.
So then another question was super nice, is there Blender consists of various elements that can be further developed. Is there a limit, or will Blender be divided into elements in the future? I say
You don't want to talk about it?
no. Oh,
What do you
because of
think?
apps. Blender apps. No, because Blender apps, well, technically it could, but no, right? Like Blender apps is
I think that
modifying Blender to fit for one specific task.
yeah, but you know, like I think Blender itself, when things get out of scope, like it's always difficult to find the line. Like when you say, okay, this is too much, it's either a feature creep, like you're adding too many details, you're adding too many features, or like saying, okay, now Blender should be a generative AI prompt driver. Maybe it could, or it needs to be a mockup editing tool. It could, but it's like, where do you draw the line, right? Because sometimes it's quite blurry. You could do it. I think, you know, Blender is going to be a CAD software, so a solid, you know, modeling, or a curve modeling software. Like there are all these questions, because Blender is very versatile. Like Blender can be a media player. Like you can throw any piece of media in it and it can handle it. You can even make its own media. It's like, what are we going to do about that, right? Like, how programmable do you want it to be? So anyway, I think that there is technically obviously no limit to how far you want to go, and that's why it's very important to try to stick to the mission. Is about like making content more than consuming content. That's of course that's obvious, but you know, at some point that's what you get the idea of the apps for, because at some point it becomes more of a way to give people an experience. So you build something and you want to give it to them, and that's when then it stops being Blender. And for everything else, like sticking to the core technology, 3D animation, and stuff like that, that's, I think, the most the most important thing. And I think that's what then helps you to keep the project agile.
I think it is. It helps. There is, I don't know how much further you want to go. There is like 42 questions.
How far are we? Do you know?
Well, I don't want to complain about the software of this, but the load. Because we wrote it, but there's some questions that are showing up twice.
What are we gonna do with this software?
Well, there is a mention
it will
here
be discontinued.
It will be discontinued. Yeah,
okay.
This website will be discontinued. I'm sorry, it's just
Okay.
like we also made it open source. This Dilo, we made it open source to hopefully
Yeah.
for one day getting
Yeah.
contributions. How many?
Yeah. Somebody did some little things, but the truth is,
No.
it's hard, right? It's hard to get contributions.
And it's weird because you would think that web would be so accessible that everybody would want to contribute to helping the Blender Studio website, the Blender development fund,
Everything we do, yeah.
the Blender conference website, everything.
I think like what people like I follow a lot of, you know, open source free software projects, especially like web technologies, and I think that the ones that have the biggest contributions, the biggest communities around, are the ones that allow the contributors to build something of their own. That's the same reason why there is interest in Blender, because it's a thing that you can use to make your own thing. But if it's a software for making someone else's community, of course the idea of building Dilo was a framework for building communities, but how many, like building a community is probably one of the hardest thing you can do in your life. really.
Yeah, we made a few.
It's really difficult to make a successful community. It takes a lot of energy, it takes a lot of time. So, you know, I think that as a product, like, it's, yeah, I mean, you know, you can just use Reddit. Why would you build everything from scratch, build a website, deploy it, and like there is a certain, so we did it for fun, obviously, but I can imagine that like then you really start to shrink the demographic of people that might be interested in that kind of product. So yeah.
So have we learned anything from this? The next, are we using the extension platform from GNOME or Firefox?
We are.
Are we?
Well, the extension platform is like inspired by.
But
Yeah.
it's not like we pip install Firefox.
No, not exactly, but it's like a lot of code is taken from the Mozilla extensions, from the Firefox extension platform, which is, of course, is such a big platform. There are a lot of patterns and a lot of things that people have thought about before. So why would you reinvent the wheel completely, right? So we base a lot of our work upon that. So in a way, like that's something that we learn, but of course we also keep making our own things. There is always a line between like adapting something and actually building something from scratch that fits 100% your needs. It's also, if you are in the luxury position of, you know, being able to customize something or build it, and you have the skill that you think, maybe it takes me more time to actually customize it, or, you know, so the more experience you get, the more realistic you are doing that assessment, because the first assessment is always like, I can do it in a weekend. But, you know, at some point, you know what you can do in a weekend. So that's good. Yeah.
Hopefully you can after a while. There's a question about Blender modeling at micro and astronomical scale.
Yeah.
Updated caustics to include possibly path tracing. This was the very first question, actually.
Yeah, was it? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like having to deal with like the complexity of scales. Like, I think there are like some inherent limits in how Blender itself works. And this goes a little bit in the territory of saying, okay, how high precision do you want Blender to be? And that's like something that, you know, is inherently defined by how Blender currently works. So, you know, like you get what Blender can do right now, but like you cannot just change it so that you can work with a different precision paradigm so easily, I think. So this is very, you know, low-level engineering questions that I shouldn't be answering also. So.
But you could argue if you make the scale 0.0001 and then you just model everything as it is.
Of course, you can say that one Blender unit is 1 micron, and then you can have a lot of precision if you want. It really depends what you're trying to do, right? So, yeah.
Maybe no, that's not the goal, but but yeah, I think it's very, very specific, and by adding the detailed work on one area, maybe taken from another area. So Blender app. HD shape keys. What is that? High definition? Like shape keys for subdivision? And sculpt layers for multi-resolution? Actually, this was like sculpt layers at all are kind of in the plans for.
Yeah, there is an ongoing project, and I think that the module that is working on these tools, they have a roadmap. Then it's all up to how much can be achieved. But that's I know that the sculpting and texture painting, like, they keep coming back. They're very popular topics. So
adaptive subdivision, leave experimental state. That's something for Brecht. It's been experimental since day one.
Yeah.
I don't know what's missing, but maybe that's something to ask when we do the cycles Q&A or whatever. You know, maybe we can more product
ask
specific.
the uncomfortable questions.
Yeah. One, I guess my last. How many quick questions? My last question. This sounds so trashy.
Last question.
Future plans for integrated layered texture painting and dynamic brushes. How's that going?
Yeah.
It is going. There is a brush assets project, which is undergoing. And there is a branch already. There is even, I think, some of the process can even be tested already in builder.blender.org. I don't know how up to date this is, but branch 14th of February. Look, San Valentine. Valentine. Yeah. You can get the brush assets project and read what's like. Well, try it first. You can click on the commits, and it's gonna reference the commit from when the website loads from project.blender.org from the branch, and
it's a big one. Look at that. Look at this big
15,000 additions.
The ideal size for a... no, it's a merge. Okay, it's a merge commit.
But anyways, the thing is, you can test the branch. There is a task that you can check on the experimental section of Blender preferences, and then you can read more.
Yeah.
but it is undergoing. It's planned for this year. It's one of the projects for 2020.
It is, yeah.
Are you both excited for Beacon LA?
I am. I'm very excited. I've been following, obviously, very with a lot of attention what is happening there, like the communication. There are like not a lot of tickets left.
Actually, a total of 37 left as of the.
There might be maybe some more, but it's just like that's like the first wave of tickets that go, and it's if you're interested in this is a thing that actually we implemented recently. This website uses the same technology that the Blender Conference website uses. I felt that this was very important to be able to provide the
sold out, by the way. You can't buy tickets anymore for the conference 2023.
Why do you do this to me? Yeah, that's us.
That's us.
Yes. Yeah.
Or more like this. Like, when are you gonna fix? No, it's fine. We're gonna fix it for 2024.
Yeah.
But it's super nice that this system it's now used by this other conference.
Yeah, so the team at Autotroph, they are being very open to use this thing. We've been talking about it already for many months. So then I kind of helped them out to get it up and running and to integrate it, and like we did a bunch of improvements that they will benefit also the Blender Conference Amsterdam later. For example, I added this amount of tickets remaining because there was always a problem for the Blender Conference that at some point tickets run out and people don't realize that there are only a few tickets left. How long does it take to implement? And it's nice when you have the incentive of you don't have to worry about the entire conference. You're just concerned with making sure that it's a working website, and then these kind of contributions and fixes are easy to make.
Or announce, like at some point we announced like, hey, there is 50 tickets left, and then we forgot like to make it. And now at least you can see there is 37. Let's see if anybody bought in the meantime.
Not yet, but eventually. Yeah. So anyway, like it's very exciting. It will be like 2 days full of fun and talks and presentations, and especially it's like a gathering of people, right? And in LA, which is basically one of the most far away places you can get from Amsterdam.
So for many people, might be their first Blender gathering ever. Even.
Yeah, exactly. So that's very cool. And Ton will be there. I will be there. Dalai will be there. So the idea is not to have too many people from the Blender conference that you would see in Amsterdam from people that work at the HQ, but to have as many people as possible from the US conference, the US community, and like US developers, so that there can be some local networking. It's not about segregating people. It's more about empowering local groups of people, like that can work in the same time zone, that can share the same background. Especially in a city like LA, there is a lot of stuff going on with computer graphics, and if you look at the amount of contribution that Blender gets, it doesn't feel very well proportionate. So I think making an event there and advertising that it's there and making people feel empowered, that's the whole point of this event. So I'm very happy for that.
In exactly 2 months. 19.
Wow, that's true. Yeah.
In 2 months. There you
so
go.
get your tickets, because they will the event will definitely sell out, and it will be really cool. So
absolutely.
Now refresh.
I won't be no, I just refreshed. No, not there yet. I will be at the Blender Conference Amsterdam though, at the OG.
So yeah.
Next, the tools like
Turbo
Except,
tools.
or
Better denoiser.
Others, they claim to have better denoiser. They say. I mean, we can also claim that about like in.
Yeah. Why
are those improvements not part of Blender?
The short answer is that, as I was saying before,
I mean, there are many reasons.
Yeah, but
the first one is because they don't add it.
It's a choice. It's a choice. But to be more specific about it, like if I have to find myself a justification, because you should ask them, right? I cannot answer for them, for the authors of these tools. But it is hard to contribute, and having a bit of I have some development experience myself, having done things. It's if you are a maker, if you make stuff, if you like to program, if you like to design things, very often that's the most fun part. And if by doing that you manage already to build something that people can use and that you can sustain yourself with, then you don't need to go to the difficult part or the painful part, which is to get that integrated in another project with other people. A lot of people, they can work very well by themselves. They can come up with solutions, design ideas, iterate really quickly. It's amazing. But then it's a different mindset than working in a team, for example. And both things have pros and cons, because when you are in a team, you can maybe build something that is more complex, but it takes a bit more time, but it can be more reliable, more sustainable for the future. If you're alone, you're more agile, more quick. So like both things have their merits. But my impression with these kind of projects is that they are like, there are very talented individuals that drive them, and that then they make the choice to focus and to keep it like that. So that makes it very difficult to bring them back into a larger project like Blender.
And like what you say, it even applies to here, to us. Like sometimes the people downstairs are making small add-ons to, like, I don't know, for nodes or for modifiers, and they fit in other add-ons that Blender already has, like modifier tools or Node Wrangler. So why don't you just add it to Node Wrangler if you're like, no, well, because it's easier. It's much easier. And I have an add-on Amaranth that have things that I wish I could have in Blender. And I'm part of the team who could make a task.
So that's the level.
Make a proposal, get reviewed by the community, and then, but it's so much.
Sometimes it's not. It's a cost benefit.
It's a cost benefit. Yeah. It takes energy. It takes energy to push for those changes. So I can imagine. But also sometimes licensing, right? Like Cycles itself is not GPL. It's GPL compatible, but it's not GPL. So you can make changes to Cycles that don't. You don't have to release, basically. As long as they don't use Blender code. All right, so hey Pablo and Francesco, I love Blender and thanks for this. No, nothing is perfect. Blender is close to perfection.
Wow.
How close? But I said close is because there is one part of Blender that feels really outdated and weak and underdeveloped compared to the other, and that's the physics simulation part. We totally agree with that. Will there be an updated overhaul to the physics system in Blender? There is no plans.
I think beyond the plans of building, embedding node-based solvers into the geometry nodes and the interactive tools, there is no more plan. But I would say that is the plan.
The plan is to make the simulation nodes, or however you call it, and maybe make a demo or one of the solvers as an example, and then I hope for the community to integrate their own, because
to make pluggable solver, because a solver is only part of it, right? Like, then how do you deal with caches? How do you deal with complexity? How do you deal with making something really easy to? Sometimes you want something that is easy to interact with, and then you accept the trade-off of making it lower quality, making it simpler, limiting the scope. Sometimes you want something massive, and then you're willing to sacrifice interactivity. And again, this is like tool design. Like, how do you choose between those two things? How can you build a system that supports both use cases? So the plan is to have kind of this baseline like infrastructure node-based to allow that, but it's part of the longer term roadmap. So and again, like, it's interesting to see how some topics keep coming up. And then it's interesting, like, in theory, one would think that because of that interest from a user base, there is also a reflection of interest from the developers base. Like, where are all the physics developers?
I know, right?
Where are they? That are willing to integrate a physics engine inside of a DCC? Because I know where the physics engine people are. They're everywhere. Everybody makes an engine.
2 minutes paper every week. There is a new, like,
so like, you can have it with AI, without AI. You can have it written by hand in Python, in C, in Rust, in whatever language you want. You can have it GPU accelerated or not. Like, there is everything. There is every possible thing. But like, okay, but how do you take that and put it into a software to make stuff? Those people, I don't know where they are.
Maybe it's just not easy. Maybe we're asking people too much. And maybe that's why, because MantaFlow was a huge project, but part of it was also because it was making this abstraction layer between Blender and a simulation engine. So MantaFlow could be replaced eventually, or just something else added to work with this layer. So maybe that's a reason. Because geometry nodes, it's hugely successful, but also because the community contributed a bunch of small nodes here and there. So maybe that's what's missing. NPR, also tools and pipeline to work with NPR, not just photoreal. But I think we've been doing this. Chris Pencil 3.0.
Yeah, I mean it's ongoing. It's ongoing, and I think that in general the sentiment is okay. People, you want to always push things further. You want to have things more stylized, or you want to have things more realistic, or you want to have things more automated.
Probably, if you ask the people making photoreal stuff, they will say that Blender hasn't focused on photoreal stuff and only on NPR stuff because of
So it's fine. It's okay.
Until recently with the AGX and everything else.
Yeah.
But yeah. Do you think Blender can ever beat ZBrush in sculpting?
Define beat.
Well, I guess if Blender will drop being 3D and be a 2.5D, so it can fit more polys in.
Somebody says features and poly count, so that's what it defines. So I think that there will always.
No, come on, ZBrush is like for 30 years plus. ZBrush has been focusing on sculpting alone, just sculpting.
Yeah.
And here we had like I did the math the other day. It was like
Yeah,
because somebody asked about it. And I was like, okay, we had, I don't know, Pablo Vazquez for like 6 months, right? 8 months, 1 year.
Maybe a year,
Maybe a year.
Yeah.
And then before that, there was a gap until somebody else worked on it for maybe 6 months.
Yeah.
Before that, maybe another 6 months. So in like less than 4 years, I would say, people have been working full time. Focus contribution on Sculpt.
Yeah.
So it's not that bad for what it is.
I think it's as good as we can get it. So.
But yeah, it's also, it seems to be hard. I have the same question again, and we have the same question again.
Now I understand what's going on, because I was like, didn't we see these questions already?
Yeah, it's because.
But if you refresh, what happens? You lose the order.
Yeah, because the thing is, when we made this amazing website, right? We made it so it loads fast, and then
pagination. Yeah.
Pagination is the issue. So I think if I load them all at once, then it's probably fine. But if people comment at the same time,
then you screw around
then
with
I
the
lose
order.
So you want to fix it? We can go to and you can deploy live.
Code with me.
So many questions.
That would be spectacular.
Let's see where we is like. I don't know how much time you have, but
well, I mean, like, how if we are like, because I want to ask you some questions, but like I don't know if we can make it like as a intermission, like with, or if you want to finish going over the questions, like it's up to you how you want it.
Let's see how many are they. Well, I have 52
comments. Great.
Yeah, I don't know how many we did.
But I mean, we did a bunch.
We did a bunch. So the most upvoted ones. Let's see if only the upvoted. So this is 3 votes. We did already with the how to get the news.
Yeah.
Then we did how to. Okay, thanks.
And the pivotal moments.
Yeah, the pivotal moments.
Yeah.
Then we had the store relaunch and others.
The Control
ACS, the Control A.
Yeah.
This we have rigid bodies. Then we talk about the Q&A. Yes. And then I was really happy to see Ton again.
Of course.
Nice.
Yeah.
And these are just the news that are, but they haven't been voted. So
yeah. Maybe next.
Does Blender Foundation use analytics?
How many people are using it for animation? But you see, this is So we do some.
Like the website has an analytics, as in like to count the visitors.
Yeah. And
long time ago we used to have Google Analytics, and that has been replaced with an open source solution.
Yeah.
Which is Plausible.
Yeah.
Right. Plausible.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing.
Yeah.
Blender itself doesn't have analytics, but because it doesn't have access to internet or anything. So the guessing how many Blender users there are out there, we can only guess from the download counts, which is coming from the analytics on blender.org, which only counts people who don't have an ad blocker, because the analytics in blender.org are coming from literally analytics.blender.org subdomain, which is blocked by every ad blocker. So we only count people without an ad blocker, basically.
Yes, exactly. I think that in the future, when we were at FOSDEM, we had some conversations with different open source projects. One that left me like very inspired was a conversations that I had with people at the Mozilla Thunderbird. Sorry, at the Thunderbird Foundation.
They must have stats.
They have stats. They have public stats. They have a strategy that is, of course, like some of it is derived from how Firefox itself does it. But they have a very interesting ways of collecting data in a way that is not too intrusive, but that it gives you a good idea of the size of the community and the patterns and the habits of what people do. Here, like with Blender, there has always been an extremely strict approach to this, to say, well, what do you want this data for? What are you going to do with it? And why do you need it? Like, does it really tell you something that you don't know already? Why would we need telemetry? Why would you want to know what people do? And it's like, it's very good to ask yourself these questions, to not just get carried into the big data. Now big data is not a thing. Like, well, it is a thing, but it's like, you know, once big data was like, you have to do it. That's the only thing you can do, right?
Yeah.
To
AI
extract the data. Yeah. So for now, like, I think obviously analytics, for example, we have them because they help us to understand the patterns of where users go, what people visiting the website look at, and how we can optimize that to provide better information. And of course, like, in one of the big aspects of Blender, the Blender website, is of course that you should be able to find Blender. So we have to make sure that people download it. So that's okay. That's currently the most successful page. People visit it a lot and they find it. So we feel that that works. But then it's like how to get involved, for example, how to support Blender, or like making sure that people know that there is a way to support Blender. So like the thanks page, like to tell people, hey, maybe you want to donate. So like being able to keep track of these things, like we do it very basic, right? We don't do a lot of A/B testing or campaigns, or we put like sticky, bits that people can carry around the internet, and then we do cross marketing on Instagram. We don't do any of that thing. We just do it really, really simple. So that's the extent of what we do it. I do think that in the future for Blender, like there will be Blender will come with more native capabilities to connect to the internet, and that I think we need to do it well. So it is still going to be opt-in by default, I think, especially at the beginning.
Extensions platform.
Yeah.
If you want to use the extension platform, like the add-ons come from somewhere on the web.
Yeah.
First, you have to opt in that you want that, but also, if for it to be safe, you have to check that the add-ons are not some like
malware,
like blocked or reported as unsafe,
malicious.
So for that, you have to, when you open Blender, you have to check. It's like you have to ping. It's like, okay, are my add-ons in this block list or not?
Yeah.
And maybe that's something that has to be done, and then from there you can count. Oh, there is a million people pinging.
Yeah, and that is like currently how other projects do it. That's how web browsers do it, for example, to gather their active user base. So to say, okay, Blender has been launched this many times, and then you can aggregate data like the IP address, for example, if you don't want to generate a unique ID per Blender instance. Obviously, there are always ways to do this responsibly and to do this well. And I think that as part of the extensions, we will definitely make a write-up about it. It's like on my desk to actually make the kind of the announcement of, okay, this is in alpha or in beta stage, this is what you can expect, this is what it means, and already make it very clear that this will enable the project to collect data. And to me, the idea is that data should always be public and it should always be transparent. So that's why, originally when we wanted to make a benchmark website, we called it actually open data, because I still believe that open data is important, and it's the only way that if a project collects data from its users, that the project should actually make sure that everybody knows what it's collected. There is nothing to hide, there is nothing to sell. You have to respect people's privacy and cannot monetize that kind of stuff. So we do it like that.
It's very sweet that like now we call it benchmark because everybody uses that as a benchmark, but the effort was there to call it open data.
Yeah, I still hope that at some point this is the place where we can put more, but I don't know. The benchmark itself, it's another project that, it's still, scroll down and see how many people did the benchmark today. It's like 200 people sending benchmarks, 260 every day,
200 and something people.
Yeah, it's not a lot. Like it's
a lot. Yeah. I mean, to use the benchmark.
Yeah, people go here and how many benchmarks? I have 150,000. 150,000. It's a lot of data.
Benchmarks. Yeah. And it's open data.
Yeah, it's open.
It says it on the name.
This is great. So anyway, that was the answer for the question that I don't even remember what it was anymore.
For the
analytics.
Yeah,
Sorry, we just go on a tangent.
Yeah. I mean, there is a minion. Why is your shirt missing the monkey head? What do you mean missing the monkey head?
I mean, because you don't have it. Because when we made it, it just...
maybe it's talking about the one from... The grease pencil one. It's
Is
same
it?
color, but it has a monkey head.
Maybe, or maybe it's missing the icon of the monkey. I don't know.
Yeah. I didn't
Put it in
put it in.
when you made the T-shirt.
Yeah.
You
no.
did this T-shirt, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I made it.
Because it was originally I made a design with colors because I wanted to make it in color. That was the first experiment I did with direct to garment printing. Like, must have been like literally 10 years ago. And there was this printer, and I went and back then Blender had colored icons.
Color icon.
So that's how long ago it was. And I have this prototype of the T-shirt with the icons of the editors because that was the idea. And I thought, that's so cool. But then it was like so expensive and so complicated to make that I decided not to do it. And then at some point, Blender got monochrome icons. I was like, finally, we can make T-shirts with the monochrome.
No, but I loved it. There was one that I wanted with all the like for people that do lighting, and he had all the icons for the lights, like the Hemi light, which rest in peace, Hemi light, and all the other ones.
That was cool because it was black and then it was yellow with like gradients and everything. So it was very nice. Yeah. Products that never got made.
Oh, there's a millions of those.
Okay, so I think this we have seen.
Yeah, I think. What do you mean? These questions?
Questions, yeah.
Some of them are like
recent,
in between.
50 minutes.
Maybe recent. Speaking of industry standards, yeah. And then this one I haven't seen before, like mentioning.
Well, no, let's.
That GT and Forgejo. I haven't. I don't know this one.
Yeah, it's a fork of GT, yeah. But it's an ongoing situation, so I rather not. I rather let the situation to clear itself out before saying anything about it.
Yeah. I mean, very sweet messages everywhere.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Some very specific tools. That was demo files. I found something interesting in the demo files. There is file with asking Blender 4.1, but Blender 4.1 can't run this file correct. Please report, please. Yes, and like there's how many weeks for? How long is it for the next release?
What year is it?
What year is it? 4.1 will be released on the 19th. Exactly 1 month. So we have 1 month to fix that bug. So please. And speaking of
fixing bugs,
fixing bugs and more developers joining. I mean, I had Ton, Francesco. Who else is missing?
I've heard the party was happening here, and I couldn't miss it out.
Yeah, of course. So
congratulations on this epic number on making them 250 episodes.
250, yeah, like Pokemon's, like the second gen.
I came here and I was like, okay, now I'm gonna ask you questions, and then like we were here for like an hour reading the questions and talking, and I still didn't get to ask him anything. So this is like the longest live stream of all times.
Yeah, and there is still many questions that I brought unfortunately I'm not gonna be able to answer them all, I think. But,
do you have a favorite color?
Tom doesn't have a favorite color. Did you know?
Yeah, I know. I mean, he wears blue a lot. Like if I look at myself in the mirror, I was thinking, what do I wear? I wear blue and gray, and I used to wear black, but that's not my favorite color at all. But I don't have. Do you have a favorite color?
Well, if I was ever to design a line of clothes, I would come up with something with fluorescent colors that you don't see in the monitor, because you're so used to screens that we grow to believe that those are the only colors they are.
So you want to have a fluo color?
Yeah. But I think my favorite color is a grayish green, because I don't really see it, that specific green, and for me every time I see like, oh my god, is that green? Is that gray? And I don't know. I like it.
It's when you can't come up with a color. I like neon colors. I don't know if that applies. Midnight blue. People saying hi. Yeah. So I'm sorry, but the list of questions is huge. I wonder if I can find anything from that I can ask that I hear. This is required for software development. Can you change Autodesk Maya keyboard function in Blender? Some I don't understand, but now you see what I deal with every week. Have you heard of Sluda? Sluda is the CUDA by AMD compatible.
Wow,
CUDA.
I didn't hear about it.
I learn a lot.
This is so good. You learn a lot. Yeah.
Politics always come here. It's one thing I try to keep away from politics, which I think it helps when doing these kind of live streams. Thank you for taking over. I never thank you in live for thanks for taking over.
Take me back, and you brought me an alpha jar. It was super nice. He didn't.
No.
What do you mean?
Come on, he brought you the little penguins. Come on, don't be greedy.
Oh, I brought him a dulce de leche penguin, but I have alfajores.
Throwing the shade, like just going in the last, like, man. Okay, so let's do a thing. So actually, Sibren was saying that there was something happening in the chat. That's why he dropped by. But I don't know if you actually look at the chat.
I have the chat here, but
it's just
they're like just so people get an idea of what's going on. Like, this is what's going on in the chat.
Yeah, it's hard to follow.
It's
so
really hard to
yeah.
follow. I mean, thanks everyone, but really, it's
that we cannot follow. So we just have it open so that people can hang out, but not.
No, I keep an eye every now and then, but having to listen and then at the same time,
there you go. So that was the party. Okay, gotcha.
Which part?
No, I understand. No, because it's fine. It's okay. I figured out the mystery.
Okay.
Okay, so now what we are going to do in this last 10 minutes of live stream, because I hereby decide. No.
yeah. No, I have.
That's the thing, you don't want to stop because it's the last one.
No.
That's why.
I don't think it's the last.
The lights going off the building in half an hour, so
things start to shut down.
Actually, the heating, stops soon.
We gotta save energy, you know?
Yeah, it automatically stops.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say it's over, as in, like, it's,
Of course, it's not over.
It's not over. It just changes format. It might come back at some point with some maybe less often, but I would like to have some time to rearrange my role as part of the Blender team as either the UI module, and now we're getting more we're getting help from Martin for the web stuff for front-end development, so maybe I can focus more on other parts. Although now that you're working on extensions, I feel like I want to do work for web and extensions.
So much work to be done. Well, it's here. I come here to say, hey guys, I'm gonna climb. I need to rest. This week's gonna be intense.
Yeah.
Please join the team.
Because you plan to.
So this is how you. Yeah.
Are you serious about that?
No, but you wrote it. You just mentioned it, right? Why is this week intense?
Because we're planning a soft release of the new extensions platform website,
which was announced 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But it is being worked on actively for the last
couple since late December. Since we announced the planning for the Blender for this year, I was assigned to work on that project, and then I was working with Campbell and Francisco to bring the project up to date. And we are ready for a early opening later this week. It's going to be a cold launch. We're not planning a lot of press release or anything, because it's really the first time a lot of people are going to get to experience the website and the workflow, and might be overwhelming if there's too many people reporting the same issues. So if you are a creator, have a nice open source add-on or theme that you'd like to share, be ready by the end of the week, or you can reach out to the development team, me in particular on the Blender chat. As Di Felinto, and I'll be glad to get more people to be early I'd say users of the site.
Yeah, it's like super early adoption, and you just give it to, we've been testing it for weeks, and then the second that you give it to someone, so the first add-on that somebody tries to upload, then it breaks, which is fine. It's normal how it works. And you test and you try and you unit test and everything, but it doesn't,
So I think that will be the next Blender Today, will be about the extensions platform once it gets, maybe next week or after, like maybe a more... When you want at least 10,000 people to watch it, plus. Yeah.
So
that's good to know. You're planning asking Pablo some questions, I've heard.
Yeah, I mean, one of the questions, it was just a few questions. It was mostly just to give him the chance to get some questions asked, because he's always asking all the questions. So it's like, and you said a bit about the future, like that that you want to refocus things and that you want to focus a bit more on design. But I wanted, before looking into the future, I wanted to talk for a couple of minutes about the nostalgia. Like, I mean, the experience of doing this Blender Today, exactly. So, like, can we just watch a few seconds of the very first?
Well, I had a video where I announced it. Then there was, in one video I was actually asking people if they wanted to do this. This was 6 years ago. And this setup already was pretty pro, but that's because I was doing the the Spanish live stream before that.
Yeah.
And the actual first one, it's here. I was talking about Chris Pencil demo outliner filters, because you couldn't filter the outliner.
Look at that with the time zones,
Ah,
just in case people.
I was getting it. Was updating the time zone. I was. It was on my own. So yeah, I had like my own social, my own
everything.
Everything was well with the BlenderToday YouTube channel, and many people here with the chat. Then there was This Week in Blender. There was this project, remember?
Oh, interesting.
By Blendify.
Yeah.
Remember?
It was a very interesting initial version of, but it is quite a commitment to do this. There wasn't a lot of tooling around it as well, so it was a lot of hard work.
So I was basically explaining, I think, why I started doing this about Blender Nation, and then there was the Blender Cloud. So I tried to cover a bit of everything.
I am so glad that you have all these things, because you've been showing the websites change over the years. So whenever we need to look back into how we were designing or presenting some things, it's also really fun.
It's insane, like seeing, like recording yourself every week for that long. It like you don't only see how you changed and haircuts, but you see how Blender changed, how the Blender website changed, how Blender itself
look
changed.
At the buildbot,
the buildbot, the Blender itself, like the 2.8 era where there was like view layers here, but there was still the horizontal buttons. The buildbot looked like blender.org with the download Blender button up there. Blender project in 2018 to look forward to. By Tom Rosen.
I mean, but that's always been that was the first kind of big, like the 2.8 page. There was the first big release page that you did, so that was very very cool.
I used to make them already for 2.7 2.69. I think I did it a few, but the 2.8 was the big,
because you were maintaining it, I remember, even before 2.8 came out, because it was this live page where people could see the features of the software, and that's how it grew to organically with the demo files and everything to be very big. And I think people were going there a lot, because I remember at some point when I did one of the Blender by the numbers, the Blender 2.8 page was one of the top most visited pages of Blender, because it was just there for months and months, and even before the software came out, so people were. Which I think it's interesting, like it's an interesting communication strategy that normally you don't really get to do with software. Like, hey, look, here is the feature page that not all the features are here, but like the things we're working on. Here are the demos. Here is like a breakdown of the things, because some are really kind of ready to go, but there is a lot of other stuff that is not ready, but you can already find. And the more you keep going to the page, it gets more cool, because there keeps with more stuff. And I think that worked pretty well. So it's an interesting. Now it's more like you collect everything, make the layout, and then bam, there is a release. It's a different thing.
There is.
Look at these guys! Look at these guys! Oh my god!
Should go reenacting.
Yep, that's 6 years in between. You are at my place. I already moved back then. For this video, I moved already to away from the previous
switch switch back and forth. Look at that. Wow,
I was so chubby.
I would say come on, we were rough times. Look at this, like with the pic. Wow, here we already have the other theme that got slashed because it was blue, and it was low. My colors are changing, and remember?
2007,
18, I think.
18.
Okay, more.
It was 18. So this was already when it was the transparency was introduced. The overlays were introduced here as well. The shading popover as well. There were collections. You could drag and drop collections. The icon hadn't changed back then. Look at the tools with the really 3D.
Oh, we still allow people to submit a tool without an icon.
Oh,
those were the days.
That was illegal.
Overlays.
Then the workbench. The workbench was introduced. Paint mode. Blended prop. What is blended prop?
That was quite impressive. But
Blender Pro. Blender Pro. I don't know why we talk about Blender Pro. Future collection visibility, future plans.
I mean, this was still Blender community, right? This channel here.
Yeah, it was still
So this
Blender
was still
community.
you in your bedroom doing
It
this.
was still in my bedroom in the other house. Yeah.
So show
like
me
it was
when
still.
you.
And then at some point, I continued making. I was also some in Patagonia.
Wow.
As another one, episode 50. I was also home with like.
Nice haircut.
Yeah, thank you.
Really?
And with the other.
Oh,
Okay, with
wow!
it.
Look
Oh,
at that.
You haven't changed
Let's see if it
at
changed.
all. Look at that.
Like this. Look at this.
No, yeah, the same.
The same.
Yeah,
You
still.
don't age.
Ah,
Italian blood.
ah.
Look at that.
Mm,
It hasn't changed.
the
I don't
hands
really know.
being like, yeah.
So we were talking about a history here too, because there were 50 episodes. Nearly, I was having a drink.
Yeah.
I used to have beers for every.
I was
episode.
having a drink.
Were you?
I see it. The glass.
No, I think a glass of water. I mean,
Okay.
Wow. The blender.
Yeah. Ah, and then you were showing. Yeah. I remember. Yeah.
I love to share. That's my T-shirt.
Okay.
The Creative Commons, and then at some point I switched. BlenderToday is moving. I
Look
was
at-
announcing that I was moving into the new place over here.
My old office.
I mean, that office now is. We removed the separation right there. So this is now where Rick and Hjalti work.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
And that at some point, yeah, I mean, people, lots of
BlenderToday
people
Live.
have been.
Where is the BlenderToday Live here? So there is a playlist on this channel that has actually all the episodes from
There
the
we
very
go.
first. From the Blender Every Day also, that was done during the pandemic, and with interviews of people when I
Man.
made like Blender short videos.
So many hours.
So many like
Somebody
pandemics.
wants to try an AI with you talking
much
like
COVID.
it's, yeah.
like even though we did the roadmap of 2.90 when we used to make roadmaps, then the Hangout and LTS update. And then I was doing the 7-minute edits, right, for each one of the episodes. Blender Recap 101. Some.
Oh yeah, I remember I was
interviews.
asking you to do that. Hey, come on, can we make the shorter version because you don't get enough views, and then it's like it doesn't matter.
It
And then
doesn't
you
really
interview,
matter.
like-
you look at the amount of people, 20,000 people watching the 7-minute, and an hour also they are
Well,
about
the
the same.
one, yeah, the interview with me is also 20,000. So yeah.
It's always a state, like it didn't make. And one takes a day to edit, and one with Brecht, and then again. And then at some point we were also down here. And
Look at that, dude! You've gone through like glasses and haircuts. Like I am the same.
Like you went
Yeah,
through
Through nothing.
socks.
Like look at that. It's like yeah, it's good. It's good. I like.
Yeah.
Now I
this
look
is the-
different. Now I look different.
Yeah. Now for some reason you do look
It's
different.
because I was more shaved. I think.
Facial hair and
More shaved.
I had both of you in that one. Interesting.
Wow.
Damn.
Story repeats
It's
itself.
sort of a
how
bit
old is
different.
that?
This is from
3 years ago.
3 years ago, 2020, March 9. Holy shit! March 9.
That's very close.
like the day, the week
Almost.
before.
Yeah.
Damn! Wow. And then we had, of course, the ones in.
No. The anniversary. Come on.
Which
Come
one?
On.
Ah.
That one. Come on.
Well, but this
What
is
were, no,
annivers-
what were you announcing? Look at this. Come on.
We were announcing.
You gotta.
We were announcing.
What is it that you were announcing something? Why
Yeah,
were
we
you
were announcing Blender 3. Blender 3. Because this was a change between. Why so? Oh yeah, we were announcing Blender 3 and the LTS, which
But the LTS was a bit, and the new numbering system.
Yeah.
And the LTS.
So special occasion. Come on. Yeah.
instead of Blender 2.94, there would be a 3.0.
Yeah. Blender
shit.
3. Yeah.
Blender 3.
Yeah, so
Well, it's kind of a big deal. Blender 4 went by like nothing. So maybe we should do it at some point for something else. But
Yeah.
this was in another room downstairs in
Yeah.
this building. Then there was one which was actually in Clement's office here next door. I don't know if you remember. Like
Yeah.
For
Yeah,
like,
because at some point we put the desk on, man. Like we moved that thing so much.
we flipped this
The
thing
lighting
around.
was super good.
Yeah.
The lighting was actually really good, and the only issue was
That the floor was wobbling. That the room was hot.
the room was hot. So
That
all
the
the issues that I
table-
have in this place now, because people are not, they don't see it, but actually the room where I was shooting that, it's behind the wall behind me, in front of us, and that is now where Clement works.
At some point, the table got stuck in the up
There got
position,
stuck,
in the high
yeah.
position, so you could only use it as a standing desk.
Yeah, I remember.
And then like it also depends on the season, of course, right? So in summer it would be very bright and nice, and then the winter comes and
yeah. Then at some point went downstairs, and we moved it, and we just kept doing it downstairs.
Okay.
And yeah, that hasn't changed much actually. That was for a long while.
And then let's let people know that you were an actual, like, this was the most epic host that you.
This is dressing up.
This was the tonight late night show. Look at
the
this
late night
guy.
show.
Look at this guy. Look at him. So good.
So like sharp. I'm gonna cut myself. It is.
It was really cool.
It was.
And you interviewed people, and it was with the live audience at the Blender conference.
So
I wonder if there is like a shot. There was.
Oh
Ian.
my God! It was Ian. Ian Ewart. Oh my gosh.
With the couch.
Look at that. So why didn't we do that anymore? Because
because after that there was a little break between Blender conferences.
Yeah.
Why?
That's true. Actually, I had Sergey.
It's such a can this show the room? No, it was just look at.
No, the room. I don't know if it shows the room. I think it shows.
It would be fun to see because it was super epic.
We got those couches like very last minute, right?
We need the couches. Come on, how do you want people to sit there? Like, is it supposed to look like a show or not?
Yeah.
For me, it looks like Matrix. This style of
the demo.
The couches.
Yeah.
And also this setup where you're talking with this.
Yeah, this is all
sat in the background.
This is all unreal. Yeah.
To me, it's a different life even.
Yeah.
Then at some point we had Daphne also. He was presenting at the conference, and I was interviewed. Then we had Alan, Captain Disillusion, also here. Like what a conference!
I know, it was fun. It was 2019. Then who else?
Then we got you.
Oh no!
There you go, another one.
Just wearing always the same.
Like we did. I know the other
Blender. The brand ambassador.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
This was.
What else? Come on, give me something else.
I think that's it. I mean,
really?
What else? Then I had
Sculpting branch.
Then I was still in that office, and then at some point I moved to.
Hundreds and hundreds.
I was doing some at home. I was doing some feature specific.
But now you're going back in time.
Oh yeah, I was going back in time. Yeah, I think it goes up.
Yeah.
And then I moved to this place with
the orange wall.
With the orange
now
wall.
Has been we built a brick wall during Christmas 2 years. No, last year. When was it?
Yeah.
You had this for 1 year now, right?
I don't know for how long, but it's basically that wall behind us.
I like
which just carved it out
and exposed the bricks. So looks legit.
Anyways, hasn't changed much since then.
Okay.
I think it's time to we can.
What can we do? So this was amazing, and again, like indeed, like let's not be too nostalgic. I just want to congratulate you about doing a thing 250 times like this. It's mind blowing.
500 if you count the Spanish one.
Yes.
What's that Italian saying about those occasions?
I don't know.
They want to pick today from their calendar. You don't have it here?
No.
I have it. Oh no, wait.
The building up. Here, maybe?
No, that's the previous one.
That's another one.
Oh, that's the one. Yeah.
Here, this. So today I give you this. So today I have a calendar with like some things written on it every day. So the one from today says, puoi perdere ciò che non hai, ma non ciò che sei. So you can lose what you have, but not who you are. So that's what I, of course, know you will never lose. So anyway, congratulations, dude. I mean,
thank you.
Do I get a hug as well?
Thanks,
so well
guys, for coming. Thanks for the help throughout all these years. I will continue.
We leave you to say bye to the people. Thank you for having us, and of course, see you around, obviously.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
Okay.
Well, I'm left with this. So, hola community. Thanks for staying until the end. Sorry if at the end it got a bit too personal to like just watching those videos like 3 friends watching videos. It's these people have been part of my life for the longest time, and you, the community, Blender Today community also has been. It's something that I don't think, like, since I announced it weeks ago and I've been thinking about it before that, I don't see it as a goodbye at all, just a see you later, because there is a lot of potential in this this connection that you build with the community. And I think Blender and any open source project is the only that can do this kind of, that can build this kind of connections. I really hope that other projects, other open source projects, maybe take on this and see it as an example. The same way they follow with the development fund, they could also follow with Blender Today kind of news. I hope they can. We can see that evolving. I will continue making videos in different shape. Maybe the Q&A, though, I do think we need to find a way to make it happen. 250 episodes, that is, if you do 50 a year, which I didn't, sometimes I did less because of holidays and whatnot, it was around 6 years. And I also do it in Spanish, so that is 500 episodes. And that's a long number. It's a big number to do something for that long. So it becomes part of yourself. I know I could have made it so much better. The technical issues I keep running into. My English is far from the best, so I mispronounce things. I forget words. I have so many flaws. But the goal of Blender Today has always been to communicate and share this lucky position that I feel I have, and try to give back a bit to the community for all the support that you give us. So I'm not going I need to cut this right away, because otherwise I'm gonna get emotional. I don't deal with these things very well. So I will thank you from the bottom of my heart for staying until the end every time I do this, and I will see you again someday, sometime. Pressing buttons without for another Blender Today live.